Hi and welcome to the video on interquartile range. By the end of the video you should know what the interquartile range is and how to find it. This is an extension topic, but we're going to give it a go anyway and see how we come out. So before I start with interquartile range, I want you to remember what the range is. The range is supposed to be a number that describes just how spread out our information is. It talks more to the consistency of our numbers. Now in this set of data that I have in front of you, I have a 1 followed by 6 50s and then a 100. Imagine these are test scores. How spread out is our data? Well, according to the range, it would be 100 minus 1, which is 99. That is to say that our scores range over 99 different numbers. But if we were just to look at that middle set of scores, the 50s, we would see that there's very little spread at all. In fact, no spread in that middle set of scores. In this case, the range is not a very good descriptor of how spread out our information is. In this case, we would use the interquartile range. Let's take a look. Technically, the interquartile range is the third quartile minus the first quartile. So I'm going to need to teach you what the third quartile and the first quartile is. But before we do that, quartile is quite a long long word. So we're going to reduce it to Q3 for third quartile and Q1 for first quartile. This is going to make it easier to say and write. So the interquartile range is still a high number minus a low number. We're just going to use the third quartile and the first quartile instead. So let's take a look at a set of scores. Here we have 12 numbers, and I want to find the third quartile and the first quartile. Here's how I do it. I take the bottom half, the lower half of the numbers, and I find the first quartile by finding the median of those numbers. And then the third quartile, you might have realized, is the median of the upper half of those numbers. You'll see that there are 6 numbers in the bottom half and 6 numbers in the top half. It's important that both sets of numbers have the same number of numbers in them. So the lower half, or the first quartile, would be, the median would be between 7 and 9. In this case, it would be 8. And the median of the numbers on the right, the median of the upper half, would be somewhere between 19 and 20, which in this case would be 19.5. So the interquartile range would be found by taking 19.5 and subtracting 8. This gives us an interquartile range of 11.5. This number is supposed to describe how spread out our data is in the middle 50% of our scores. By only looking at the median of the lower half and the median of the upper half, we don't take into account any very large numbers or any very small numbers either. And a lot of the times this is a better description of your set of data. Let's take a look and see what happens when we have an odd number of scores. Here I have 11 scores, and if I wanted to work out the range, I would take 50 and subtract 11, getting 39. So that 39 is supposed to represent that my data is spread out over 39 different numbers. But let's take a look at the interquartile range. Now to find it with a set of 11 scores, I'm actually going to have one score too many. In this case, what we do is we take the median and we just look at the numbers on the left of the median, which will be our lower half of our numbers, and the median of the numbers on our right, which will be our upper half of our numbers. I know using the word half doesn't really work here because we have 11 numbers, but this is the way we find the interquartile range. So to find Q1, I look at the numbers on the left and look at the lower half of the numbers and I find the median of those numbers. In this case, it's 25. And then I do the same thing with my upper half of my numbers. I look for the median of the numbers on the right, and that's 39. So in this case, my interquartile range will be 39 minus 25, which is 14. So this number 14 describes the middle 50% of my scores in here, that they're spread out over 14 numbers. This is a better description of our range, which would say that our numbers are actually spread out over 39 numbers, which is not really the case because we have this really big 50 here and this really small 11, which is really far away from our middle set of data. So what should you write down? Well, there's 2 examples in this video, so I'd like you to get 2 examples written in your book. I'd like you to pause and summarize the first example and the second example as well. This should give you enough information in order to work out the interquartile range for a set of data. Good luck in your workings tomorrow, and as always, ask questions if you need to.